Hello and welcome to a special Everything is Black and White podcast here in the Manga. It's absolutely baking hot. We've been here all day inside Newcastle United's training base here in Spain. I'm Sean McCormick, chronicle writer for Newcastle United, and this is Lee Ryder, Chief of Newcastle United writer. You know that by now. Lee, we've had a busy day, haven't we? We've seen training this morning, we've met the new manager, we've seen quite a few club officials dotted about. Obviously this is the benefit, I guess, of being inside these training camps in pre-season. But what have you made of today so far, and give the readers a little insight in what we've been doing?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting these days. You know, they are quite rare. Sort of once or twice a season you get the opportunity to do this, and you kind of do go behind the scenes and you see it all kind of fluidly working. And anybody who thinks there's no hard work going on off the pitch would be proven wrong, because at the end of the day, you've got PIF representatives here, which I know you've done a piece on before. You've got Jamie Rubin is here from the Rubin sort of group, who are also still a big part of Newcastle, and you've got Ross Wilson here, James Bunce, and then obviously the manager and his new backroom team. So it's basically, you see the work going fluidly behind the scenes.
It has been interesting, hasn't it? I think the amount of handshaking we've done today, meeting new, not meeting new officials, but you know what I mean, like coming across new officials. You know, likes of Jamie Rubin, who hasn't really been seen at the stadium too much in recent years, but his presence has been felt here today. As we first come into the training ground this morning, it was Jacobo Solis, the PIF chief, shaking our hands and shaking the hands of the players too. So it felt like a momentous week for us, coming out to the Manga to meet the new manager, to get a little glimpse into what he's trying to do and what he's trying to implement after Eddie Howe's departure. But it's almost had that added gravitas, hasn't it? Because all these big officials are here, and obviously David Hopkinson's in the area as well. We're expecting to see him later on too. So all the big players, other than really Jaissle Ramayan, are here.
Yeah, it's pretty much everybody was at Matfin Hall the other month. They're all here, and they're all pushing towards the goal of getting more transfers through the door. That is very clear. We heard it from the new manager himself. Said there is capacity to improve and bring players in, and that was, for me, that was one of the big takeaways from the press conference. He won't want to, go ahead with the squad he's got, because there is still gaps to fill, and they do probably need a little bit more experience, a little bit more guile, and that's what's missing for me at the minute.
First impressions of the manager then? We've both just obviously met him, so we met him this morning before training, and that was very much pretty much a handshake and a brief sort of outlining of what he was doing. He said that they've had 2 days of double intense sessions, was how he put it, wasn't it? Whereas today it was very much light in front. Well, he said it was a light session in front of the media. We got about 15 minutes on the training pitch watching it. We had that bit of time with Ross Wilson and James Bunce eating into that 15 minutes. So we'll have pieces on Chronicle Live, I think, in the morning, but don't hold us to that, from that chat as well. But we then had 10-15 minutes with Matthias Jaissle in the bowels of the, you probably can't see it in the background too, but the main hotel complex behind us there. We had 10 minutes with Matthias Jaissle, then got a sort of feel for his demeanour, his personality. As you said there, you asked him about transfers and what he has in the final say, but it's clear, isn't it, that he's got very little time now between today and the start of the season to get across his ideas. Patience might need to be required. We've had David Hopkinson calling him a rock star last night. Said MJ is fire, I believe, was the direct quote from the CEO in his interview with The Athletic. But I don't know what you felt like. It wasn't necessarily a sort of rock star unveiling. It was very much calm, collected, poised. I don't know what you thought.
I thought he came across very confident, very assured, and that's what you need. You need your manager to be sending that signal out, certainly sure of himself and his ability, and he's got to be like that, because he's got to set that example to the players. So I like that element of it. You want to see someone who's nice and confident, nice and bright. I saw that. I think the press conference is going to be interesting. I've seen a little bit of bite as well. He kind of went back at a couple of journalists, didn't he?
Yeah.
Not in a kind of rowdy way.
Not in an angry way, but sort of setting his stall out, I would say, is probably the best way to describe it, wasn't it?
He kind of said, I've already told you once, sort of thing. He didn't want to repeat himself. And
we're probably going to have to up our game, not ask any stupid questions.
I mean, look, it was 10, 12 minutes, the press conference. But I think he said everything he pretty much needed to say. I don't think there's any, for me, there wasn't any questions that didn't go answered. Still early, still needs to decide who's going to be the club captain, things like that. Yeah. There's a lot of things to still be sorted, I guess, but he has only been here 6 days.
Yeah.
He kind of said, I'm relieved that it's official now and I can walk around knowing I'm Newcastle manager without anybody. Yeah. So I think there was a lot of positives to come from that press conference.
I think he got his confidence across well without coming across as arrogant. There was no sort of sweeping statements, there was no eye-raising answers.
No.
Usually in these unveiling, well, it's not necessarily an unveiling press conference. We think there could be an unveiling press conference in Newcastle next week, but for a first chat, there's something where your eyebrows raised and think, okay, fair enough. But there was nothing. I wouldn't say he come across at all as like arrogant or anything like that. It's almost like a quiet confidence, a confidence that's backed up by results.
It's such a fine line between being confident and being arrogant.
Yeah.
And I think he's on the right side now. We've all seen press conferences down the years when Mourinho got unveiled at Chelsea.
Yeah.
And he come up with, I'm the special one.
Backed it up, to be fair.
He backed it up, to be fair. Now, he's not going to come out and say that, but he showed me enough there today to think he means business.
He's got a bit about him. That's the way I would describe it. I think the way that he addressed us, the way that he was very still, very sort of poised with the way he responded to answers. You can read too much into that kind of thing, but I do think that he came across well, he came across strong. He's going to get his opinions across, he's going to get his vision across. He did stress, of course, that, as you said, that he's been here 6 days, only 2 days officially. And he stressed quite a bit, didn't he, that there's only so much he can do in that time. I asked him the question of how confident is he can get those ideas across with such little time between now and the start of the season against Liverpool. And he said he was confident, but obviously there's going to have to be a patience there as well. He was asked about transfers and he has his own ideas, clearly, but as you said, it's going to be a collaborative decision about who comes in, who leaves the club. But he wants the players here, even if he has got an idea of who he wants and who he doesn't, to prove themselves. And obviously the ideal opportunity for that is on the training ground this week in an environment like the Manga, where you're away from all the distractions. And then the big opportunity, of course, at the end of all this is the Valencia friendly on Saturday, which obviously we'll both be at. But I'm excited for that, because it's going to be a first glimpse, isn't it, really, of what Matthias Jaissle's Newcastle can look like. Are you expecting too much to change? Are you expecting that identity to come across so soon? Or do you think it's going to take a couple of weeks and maybe that Liverpool game is the target for Jaissle the ball, for one of the better phrase, to come in?
It's a tough test to begin with, going to Mestalla. I mean, it's not a Gary Neville situation, is it? It's will be tough. So for me, I think we've got to be honest. You can't read too much in a pre-season, just as well, given we've been thumped by Bristol City in our last game. So I'm not going there expecting miracles, but I want to see the new formation.
Yeah.
He talks about how he wants to play vertically. Yeah. I'm quite interested to see his definition of that. The Gegen pressing, that's going to be interesting. How that sort of comes across and how the players implement themselves on that. But players seem in good spirits. First time we've really seen them, apart from getting on and off buses at pre-season venues. You always get a flavour of what the mood's like behind the scenes. Focused, I would say. Protective almost as well, because obviously there was a few players that didn't train, Lewis Hall and Fabian Schär, so they didn't really want them to be sort of pictured or anything like that. Nothing untoward about it.
No.
Just, as I say, protective.
Yeah. I mean, Fabian Schär came out, what do you say, about 10 minutes after the group, but he came on the main pitch, whereas Lewis Hall was doing some. You did the story this morning. He was doing some sort of individual training with a fitness coach, sort of away from the pitches, wasn't he? But
he was working on his upper body strength. Yeah,
but there's nothing untoward. We've been just to reassure fans, we've been told unequivocally that he is not for sale this summer. So, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't think they can afford to sell anybody else, to be honest, because it's already been dismantled enough. 3 huge holes in the squad that haven't fully been filled in terms of experience. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who comes in next. But certainly, what we're told is they will be filled. Could see a right-sided forward. Could see another right back coming in. There's been a younger left back linked. Where that would leave Lewis Hall, I don't know, but I would say for the viewers watching that Newcastle are actively working away at 3 or 4 more targets, and certainly going to be departures because some of the players simply can't stay because, I mean, I'm talking possibly about Nick Pope, I just can't see him staying. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but certainly work going on, and one where you can't really take your eye off the ball for too long.
We'll not go into too much detail because there's going to be a lot of content that comes out from today, from people that we've spoken to and what have you. But just on a broader sort of spectrum, we've spoken to a lot of club officials today about things and where things are currently at. And obviously, I would say the fan base is sort of split of this Newcastle 2.0, as David Hopkinson put it, being really exciting. It's a fresh start. We've ripped off the plaster. We go again. With these new signings coming in, a new manager coming in, it's something to get behind. Whereas there's the other half who are sort of seeing it from a rational point of view of, we've lost 3 best players. Bruno's going. Trippier's Trippier, but I will mention Trippier in a minute. Tonali's gone, and Anthony Gordon's gone. Kieran Trippier, a big experienced voice behind the scenes, is also gone. What camp are you in for a start? And then secondly, how much can we read in for how confident and how vibrant the officials that we've spoken to are about this? Is it just spin, or do you think it comes from a place of they really believe this is the best thing for Newcastle and this is the best, best direction forward, I guess, to rebuild the club?
I think there's an acceptance behind the scenes that Newcastle had turned stale under Eddie Howe in the second half of last season, certainly, possibly in the first half, in certain games. You go back to West Ham and Brentford, games like that. They'd turned stale, they'd lost their identity, and I think it's about regaining that freshness, it's about regaining that identity, and that's what the younger players have come in to do. That's why there's a younger, more vibrant coach, and it's just going to be really interesting to see the difference between then and now. As you say, we'll reflect more in our pieces, but it feels like things have gone up a notch, even from Eddie Howe's high demands, high training intensity. From what I'm being told, this is their claim, that things have gone up even further.
Yeah.
So now it's time to back that up on the pitch, and it doesn't get much tougher than a trip to the Mestalla, friendly or not.
Definitely not, and obviously we'll be there on Saturday across everything at the Mestalla. Just a quick word of thanks to our sponsors as always, NordVPN and Jaissle. You can find all the promotions, as always, in the comment box below. And just to sort of mention the surroundings, it's obviously a beautiful complex here at the Manga. You were last here 10 years ago, the Steve McLaren era. We've had a few conversations about this, haven't we? Things are obviously a lot different. I know there's been a bit of doom and gloom about Newcastle this time, but thoughts on it? 10 years on, much changed?
Yeah, I think it's had a good lick of paint. It's still a top class venue. We were in there with Steve McLaren, 2016 it was, and 2 games later he left the football club because Newcastle were threatened by a relegation, which ended up going through. So who knows? We'll never know if Steve McLaren would have kept Newcastle up, because they obviously struggled, even with Rafa Benitez coming in. He couldn't stop the rot. Now, one quick little tale was, we were up there in that complex having a drink with McLaren the day before the game against, I think it was Lillestrøm, a friendly, against a Norwegian team, and he basically said, no, I'm not panicking, I still think we can do it. Well, I think they had 12 games left or 10 games left at the time. He says, still think we can do it, confident we can. Of course, they lost 1-0 to Stoke and then lost to Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, and that was his final game. So yeah, it just shows you how things can change.
So it's definitely on a much more positive note that we're here this time around. And obviously, as I say, it's absolutely baking hot. I think the players have been put through the paces this week, just the temperatures alone. But it's been high intense work, and excited to see what it's like on Saturday in Valencia. We were just having a look at the weather forecast before, and it's actually hotter in Valencia than it is today, and we are absolutely sweating just standing here talking. So it's going to be a tough workout for the players, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what's needed at this stage in the season, because by the time you go into that Liverpool game, it's a different type of heat, isn't it? It's not in terms of weather heat. It's you're walking into a red hot quarter on that day, and the heat and intensity of trying to get a result against Liverpool will be there for all to see. So looking forward to that in a few weeks. But yeah, never been to Mestalla, so it's a big one to tick off the list. I think. I've been getting told that it's the last chance to go to Mestalla for about 20 years, but now eventually we've got the opportunity to go there. Iconic ground. Looking forward to it. I think there's 2,000 Newcastle fans going as well, so should be big.
Yeah, good trip for Newcastle fans. I think there's plenty. Yeah, I'm going to enjoy the sights and sounds of Benidorm from the sounds of it. So enjoy yourself if you're going out there. Just to finish quickly, again, it's a chat I'm going to be putting on Chronicle Live the next couple of days, so we'll not go into too much detail. But we, as local media, had a sit down with new goalkeeper Lukas Hornacek. Obviously, youngster, 24, coming from Braga. Don't know what you thought, but I thought he was really impressive.
Yeah, it was very good to talk to him. Seems fresh, seems up for it. Believe it or not, we end up having a little chat about player ratings before he's even made a save.
Yeah, he knows where to come if Lee gives him the bad rating.
So yeah, it was quite funny. But seems like a really good character in the group. The fact that they put him up for media so early in his career says that they trust him. And yeah, looks like a quality signing, so good luck to him.
Yeah, definitely. I thought he was really impressive. It was quite funny. He did Sky first, and Keith Downey, the Sky reporter, had his headphones in transcribing an interview he'd already done, and came up behind him and gave him a little bit of a shock, didn't he? Which I found was quite funny. But yeah,
confidence in it when you
confident.
don't know
Yeah, his English was fantastic. He seems like he's really settled into the group, really settled into the goalkeeping group. He's got designs of coming here and playing. He's not got any sort of desire to sit on the bench. So again, you can follow that chat as and when it goes live. We're thinking it might be at the weekend before the game, so keep an eye on that. Keep an eye on stuff with Ross Wilson and James Bunce, and some more Matthias Jaissle coming out at 5 p.m. Tonight. If this podcast goes out slightly earlier, you've got that to look forward to as well. In the meantime, keep an eye on our socials, our podcast, our YouTube channel for all the latest content of me and Lee out here in Spain. And if we don't speak to you beforehand, we'll speak to you after the game in the Mestalla, where hopefully Matthias Jaissle's Newcastle get off to a winning start in his reign. But until then, we'll catch you next time.